there's nothing in Kelton. I says, what are these poor people going to do when they come out to Kelton? I says, do you know what happened the first time my husband ever brought us to Kelton? This was probably in the late 80s, early 90s. And we have 4 sons, and they were probably elementary school and junior high. And we had gone to Promontory to the train, the visitor center there, and took the kids to the visitor center and everything. And then they had this map. You can drive, if you have a 4-wheel drive, on the old train trestle trail. So, and then we bought us cassette tape that had train whistles and train sounds and stuff. So we thought, okay, let's do that. We had a Bronco, so we popped that in. We got the kids ready. We bought them, drinks and stuff. And we're headed along this trestle, and it's just a 2-lane dirt road. And so we're driving along, and Kelly and I are talking and stuff, and the kids are, playing games or watching out the window or something. And the train sounds had quit. We totally forgot about them as we're discussing what we're seeing. You're driving, and all of a sudden there's just this little sign that says there was a town here. Then you go a little farther away, and there's a town here, and it's like, where? And I kept thinking, where were there towns out here? And I says, there's nothing out here. So we keep driving. All of a sudden we come up over this hill, and all of a sudden you hear this train whistle, and we both kind of startled, like, where's our train at? And we're looking around, and it was the cassette flipped back and started up again. So we're driving in, and we get into Kelton, and of course we see the graves. And there was a different sign, a different placard that the descendants had put out here. And I was reading it, and I says, oh my gosh, those mountains over there, they made wooden troughs, and that's how they brought the water to Kelton. Were in these wooden troughs from those mountains clear over there. And I'm standing there, and believe me, I'm a big city girl. I grew up in Michigan. Not this kind of stuff. And the kids, then I don't know where it is, but there were remnants of a turn thing to turn the train around out here. And there were a few remnants of houses, they were just the cement bases or whatever, the walls, the footings or whatever they're called. And we're standing out there, and the kids are running around, and they're finding square nails, and they're thinking, Mom, look, this is so cool. And I'm just standing there, and I'm watching out there. And there was a sheep herder on his horse with his sheepdog. And I'm just standing there like this because it was cold and it was blowing and the wind is just whipping around. And the kids are running around, and Kelly walks over and he goes, what you thinking? And I says, can you just picture this? Just picture this. And he looks at me, he goes, what? And I says, some poor girl just got married in St. Louis, and her husband's going, honey, we can open up a mercantile in this place called Kelton, Utah. It'll be so neat. We can go out there, and it doesn't take that long to get there anymore. We don't have to travel by wagon train or anything. We can go on the train. This is so neat. We can sell all this stuff, get all the supplies we need, and go. And she's like, okay, sure, this is great. I says, can you see this poor girl? She gets off this train, and she stands here looking around. The wind is blowing like this, just whipping her dress and her bonnet. And I says, I can just see it now. She gets off the train and she looks around and she goes, what has he brought me to? And that's my first encounter with Kelton, is like, and he stands there and he looks at me and he goes, what are you saying? And I says, there's nothing out here but sagebrush, sand, and wind. And that's my story. And the wind is still here. So are the sagebrush.
Thank you, Sandy. Terry, would you like to come and tell us a little bit about the Bartleson Bidwell 10 Mile Spring?
I had one thing in mind before we get to Bidwell, and I'm going to insert it here at Kelton. One of our chapter members is from out Raft River country. Some of you know Gar Elison. He tells the story of how big the cattle and the sheep business was out here. Really, you ought to have the Stillmans come up here and tell this story, because they run sheep out this direction. But said there was a day in which Kelton, which is we've been aptly described as nothing, was a sheep shipping spot, that the railroads would bring their cars in here and load the sheep that would come from all kinds of directions, up the Raft River. And he said the railroad got an idea, and they started a program where they would hook on a cook car and then several dining cars. And you could buy passage to come out to Kelton and have the freshest lamb chops you could ever find. And they said it was really very popular. The people in Ogden really enjoyed that. I got to insert one other thing. Some years ago, I was in a place where it was part of the gift shop commercial spot of a historic site, and I found in there a chart that 30 inches by 36 probably, and across the top was a list of a great number of ailments, anywhere from toothache to childbirth. Down this side was a list of plants and herbs that the Indians used to cure the ailment. And so then wherever it crossed, they'd put a dot. So I thought, I wonder what was used most often. So I matched it up, and so what would you guess would be the most often medicine that the Indians used to cure all kinds of ailments, from stomachache to whatever? Sagebrush. What is the most prevalent plant between Alberta and the northern Mexico and California and Nebraska? I think that's an interesting thing there. Juniper also was pretty high on the list, and so that is. Bidwell Bartleson Company. They came across over here, and Eli's going to point to us where the 10-mile spring is. This was a difficult portion of the trail for Bidwell Bartleson. They had 2 days without good grass or water. We were over there as we were at Monument Point, and I mentioned that they were coming across, and they went past the Wildcat Hills. That's where they were headed, angling up into to the canyon there, because they saw the greenery. And they say, if they're, you're going to learn that if there's any place that's going to have water, there's also going to be something green around there. And that's where they went. And that was a 2-day trip. It was very difficult. I read that little quote about how, going without water and the dust and the brightness and all of the rest that takes place does something to you. Those of you, if you work out all day in heavy wind, it almost kind of rattles your balance a little bit. And so this is part of what they were dealing with. When they finally got into 10 Mile, and they had to go up a canyon, a ravine, to get to it, and it's a beautiful spring, still to this day up there. When they got up there, their cattle were so jaded, and the people were in such difficult straits that they decided they're going to camp there a while. And so they do. They stay there. There finally came to a time in which a couple of them decided to move on further. And there's a place over here you saw, if you're watching the road here, the Morris Ranch, just down the road, not very far. You go down there, and we have a trail marker there. And then they started out a little bit in that direction. Park Valley is here between where we were at Park Valley and the next marker along the trail of the Bidwell Bartleson. It's probably 5 or 6 miles down on the ranch house, and then it goes on to Owl Springs, and Owl Springs is where the Kelsey family abandoned their 2 wagons, and then the rest of them abandoned their wagons when they went around and went out into Nevada. So again, there's no lesson better than just being here and looking out there and see what these people had to deal with. And you could be well assured the wind was quite prevalent then too. And so I don't know. Any question? That's about all. I can keep it short here.
What was the lake level back at that time?
Lake level. Anybody remember? I read that, but I don't remember. Who's that?
That's what it is today. What was it then?
42? I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you. We would be standing in water here? Yeah.
The lake level today is 4193 or so.
Yeah.
you know, was it 42? Was it 4210?
Yeah. Of course, there's. I can't give you any other statistics. You can look that up. You know, or you can Google anything. But one of the things you can look for too.
Well, one of our neighbors who did some drilling out here said that the lake was closer. That when they came and camped, as coming around out of the Alamo Valley, that they could see it quite close up. And then in 1934 there was an earthquake, and it raised the ground up and pushed the water back. So the lake was actually not as close as
I think, somebody correct me, but I think I've read that the biggest earthquake in recorded history in Utah is right down here.
Yeah.
Russian Knolls, which is just down. Am I pointing the right direction?
I don't know, but the Russian Knolls, there was a Russian settlement that they
Yes.
had in here.
There's a lot of history about that. She made reference to the round thing for the railroad. That's a roundhouse. You got to have a pretty heavy involvement of trains if you're going to have a roundhouse. And there was the one at Terrace down here. And that would be the next, I think, the next stop railroad-wise from Kelton.
Where's the Meridian point? Where's the Meridian worker?
Someone, Eli knows that one.
The marker's just about a quarter mile over here. If you follow this road around, it's just right there, a little fenced area around it. The road isn't suitable for the bus, so we're probably not going to drive by there. But that's where it's located, and there's a picture in your book handout of it.
I'm good if you want to close out. We'll just...
Any more questions for Terry?
Where was 10 Mile Spring from here?
10 miles. And what we'll do is we'll go in a caravan past 10 Mile, and I'll get out and be Vanna White again. And there's a grove of trees up on the hill, and I'll point those out to you. The road is too treacherous for most vehicle travel. Four-wheel drives can get up there, but then you have to go through a lock gate and some other people's property, and it's just kind of a little bit of an awkward situation today. But we can show you where it is. In the booklet, there is a picture of it as well, and we'll see if we can get some better footage of it.